Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Catalyzing Change Week, Day 4. It's a pleasure for us having you here today for a super important conversation moderated by Lubna Dejani, our member of Catalyst Now, together with some amazing speakers. So the topic for today is the $5.4 trillion turning point, recoding capital for human flourishing. As many of you already know, Catalyzing Change Week is powered by Catalyst Now. We are a global movement of social innovators working towards system change through collaboration. So if you're not a member, please come learn more about Catalyst Now. And I'll also put my email in the chat for any kind of questions. We want this to be as interactive as possible. So we have activated question and answer in the chat. So feel free to add any kind of questions you might have for our panelists in the Q&A box. And I'm going to pass it over to you, Lubna.
Thank you, Maddie. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning again, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Lubna Dajani, Chair of Catalyst Now USA and Managing Director of Alternate. I'll be your moderator today, as Maddie said, and I'm really grateful to you, my speakers, and guests alike for making this conversation possible. So the 5.4 trillion turning point, the recoding of capital for human flourishing. We're genuinely living in a most extraordinary time, not only because of the largest transfer of wealth in human history, but also because of the conditions surrounding it. Unprecedented economic uncertainty, environmental crisis, geopolitical fragmentation, and the digital explosion is reshaping every aspect of human life. More than 84 trillion is in motion today, shifting hands, priorities, and power. Family offices manage over $3.1 trillion today, projected to reach 5.4 trillion by 2030, while private markets surge towards 30 trillion. This while artificial intelligence, blockchain, quantum, and related technologies are accelerating not only innovation, but the transformation itself, rewriting how we live, learn, work, heal, and even define truth. Yet, as a global society, we spend 2.6 trillion on defense and AI-powered weapons. Contracts have risen by 1,200% in 1 year here in the US. And this while education, health, the arts remain chronically underfunded. Research shows that for every 1% increase in military spending, health spending falls by roughly 0.5%, a little over 0.5%. So the question before us is both urgent and deeply human. What are we teaching our children and our autonomous systems about the value of human life? Today, we'll explore how capital can move from preservation to activation, from accumulation to regeneration, and from richer than each other to richer together, from competing to beat one another to competing to complete each other to a common goal. This isn't just an economic conversation, it's moral, it's generational, and it's planetary turning point. Over the next hour, you'll hear from my amazing speakers who are leaders, not only in talking about in their industries, not only they're talking about the transition, but they are building it through investments, innovation, policy, and purpose. So to guide the dialogue today, I want to ask everyone on stage and listening to hold this framing question at heart. So what does real alignment between innovation, capital, and collaboration look like when human flourishing and planetary well-being are our intent? And what does it really take to shift capital from profits at any cost to prosperity for all? I'm so honored to have such an amazing group of people with me here on the stage, some of the most influential folks with trillions of capital managed or under investment. So without further ado, I'd like to invite our Enzo to the stage. Please join us since you are so already at a very busy place with bringing with you some 20,000 attendees. Please, I would love for you to introduce yourself briefly and reflect on the question.
Thank you very much, Lubna. And I see very good friends on this call and some other new friends. So I'm honored and pleased to participate and to contribute with some ideas. So as far as my background is concerned, basically I've been a diplomat and I was the campaign manager of the United Nations Secretary General in New York, and also I've been head of office of United Nations in many countries worldwide. So, for more than 3 decades, I've always um, managed global campaigns and programs on sustainable development, which fortunately nowadays is a trendy topic, but 30 years ago it was not. So there has been certainly an evolution, very slow one, but still in the right direction. And I'm still a senior advisor to the Secretary General, in particular on disaster risk reduction, which focuses on mitigation, prevention, and response to natural disasters. And my companies now are focusing on providing to governments and corporations advisory, financing, and technology to tackle global warming consequences, in particular natural disasters, but also energy transition. So, Lubna, if you would like to share my LinkedIn page and my company website with the colleagues, or I can do that on the chat so that you can learn a little bit more about me. And yeah, so this is all for now. So don't take much time to the other speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. I would love to hear more about how we influencing governments to shift. So I'd like to shift to you, Edward. Please introduce yourself.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all. Thank you, Catalyst. Thank you, Lubna. Thank you all who are organizing this great event. Again, my name is Ed Mermelstein. I stepped down as Commissioner for International Affairs for the City of New York recently, and my background is primarily in the emerging markets world. I come into that world from the legal standpoint. I worked for many years representing investors from emerging markets here in the United States and specifically in New York City. That moved into the family office sector right before I took on the job 4 years ago as the commissioner for New York City. And our focus was, aside from representing the largest community of diplomats in the world, was foreign direct investment. And a city like New York, which is considered the capital of finance and in many ways capital of technology and life sciences and many other sectors, our focus was very much to bring best practices of New York City to the rest of the world and exchange best practices between global cities. So that is something that I think translates quite well with respect to what we're talking about. And the main concern that I always had, and this was the alignment as to why I came into this office, was that we can't help our citizens, we can't help the underserved populations, both here in New York City and across the world, if we're not creating value and value in business. And that is one of the main focuses that we really thought about when this administration came into office, is how do we bring business into New York City so that we can provide more services to our constituents? What we've done as a result when I left the office was take that concept to the emerging markets. And now the focus, which is geared towards one market in particular for me today, which is Ukraine, is how do we take the best practices of what we learned in New York and reinvigorate the economy in Ukraine, because the war obviously has taken its toll. But at the same time, if you recognize the fact that a country like Ukraine that has such a robust opportunity to grow, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's in energy, there are so many opportunities in this country if they find ways to conform to Western standards and move towards the European Union standards. That is a country that has every opportunity to become the economic engine for the European Union. And we'll, I think, talk about that as we get further into this conversation. I thank you once again.
Oh my God, thank you so much for your work, for what you've done in New York, and for your work you're doing globally. Let me, Simon, if would love for you to introduce and chime in. And I know you do quite a bit cross borders, so I would love to hear.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Simon Littlewood. I'm the chief exec of a investment group called SDG Global Group, which focuses on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which is, I think, one of the topics that we're talking about today. Similar to Enzo, I started back in the 80s and 90s at a time when sustainable investing was not only not popular, but it wasn't profitable. So I've spent 40 odd years now investing in a whole range of sustainable solutions, both in Europe, the US, Africa, and Asia. Basically focusing on solutions that can be deployed and solve problems straight away. So we do late stage solutions. We look at a problem like a drought or a shortage of food or shortage of energy, and then we find the right solution, and then we deploy that solution. And our focus is very much on the for-profit space, on the basis that to have long-term change and stuff that will still be there in 5-10 years' time, you need to generate the cash flow. You can't keep going back to aid institutions and other NGOs and say, yes, we need money again this year. So everything we do is on a for-profit basis, but our aim is to improve the communities where we work in. So we generate profits and do good. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Adi.
Oh, and he does all of it with a fabulous sense of humor, I should note.
You could see it. You could just, that beautiful energy comes right through. So Adi, fifth generation family office, real estate mogul yourself, world traveler, and number of languages. Please.
That's always people's favorite question. How many languages do you actually speak? Fluently, just English. And to quote Ian, it's not always perfect.
I heard you're Italian, so.
Sì, parlo più di italiano. But let's see. Okay, yeah, fifth generation real estate investor. Built an international software company. It's used in 59 countries. Built an international media company. The audience is in 56 countries. I wrote a book. It hit #2 bestseller in the US and top #1 new release in 8 categories 20 days after it was published. Edward also wrote in that book with me. And then what question did you have? You wanted me to answer how we collaborate profitably? Okay, so I could speak ad nauseum probably like for 10 hours straight about how you can structure different real estate deals so that they're leading to positive effects, secondary, tertiary, for the next generation. That's, I think, something that I'm most passionate about is people can go in and they can look at different investment opportunities in real estate, and they can pick something that's like very, what is it called? Kevin McGovern loves to call it milk toast. where they pick a multifamily, they change the lighting, they paint the concrete, and then they come out and they say, look, we did value add and we doubled rent. But then there's all these amazing opportunities that you can have within real estate, especially in the US, where you can do things like going into lower income neighborhoods. You can add lighting, you can donate to the local police force, you can help the local the teachers at the school with grant writing and things like that to decrease crime rates and increase the cash flow that they have in order to educate their students in ways that will help them to be more profitable moving forward. So that's I think one of the biggest untapped opportunities that a lot of people miss when they think real estate. They think house flipping. They don't think changing microeconomies throughout the country.
And I know you have several wonderful examples of where such things, including coffee in the lobby.
Oh, do you want me to tell that one?
Love that one.
Okay, so there are a few really interesting ones, and one of them is you go into a low income area that might have like a a less than ideal crime rate. Let's just put it that way, and you purchase one of the buildings, one of the apartment buildings, and you swap out for the lighting to be much brighter at night, so it's well lit in the darker hours. And then you go to the local police force and you give them $25,000-$30,000 and you to establish a canine unit. And then from there you say, hey, by the way, your canine unit can train at my apartment building whenever they want to. And that magically helps to decrease crime rates. But there's another step to it. You take a very nice coffee machine and you put it in the lobby of your apartment building, and then you tell the police that anytime they want coffee or tea, water, whatever, they're welcome to come there and get it from the lobby of your building. And having police go to that building at regular intervals throughout the day, 24/7, does wonders for decreasing the crime rate in that area. It typically raises the values of not only that property, but the 8 properties that surround it. And then something that investors who do this play often do is then they use part of the proceeds from that to fund the teachers, specifically the English teachers at the local elementary, middle, and high schools, so that they can learn grant writing, so that they can write grants to get more specific types of funding for their schools. So it doesn't just decrease crime rates. It doesn't just increase tenant retention. So by tenant retention, I mean, for those of you not in real estate, when you have an apartment building, you want the people to stay in there and to be happy staying there, right? Because then they treat the apartment building better, they stay there longer, you have less time with people leaving apartments empty. So if you can do something like this where you're decreasing crime rates, you increase the money that you're getting back in your pocket, because you have fewer people who are moving out because they feel like they're not safe there. Does that make sense? Are there any questions? Did I use too much industry jargon?
Clearly, doing well can also happen by just doing good. And actually, I can't imagine any other investment that could have made such a return. Alexandra, economist,
Yes,
family office advisor, especially to women investors. I can't wait to see you and Adi.
Exactly. So hello, everybody. My name is Alexandra. I'm located in Zurich. I have like a PhD in international capital markets, and I have been working in the financial industry for over 20 years in investment banking, in wealth management, and with family offices. So the great wealth transfer that is happening is something I'm really witnessing as an advisor to them firsthand. All the possibilities it brings, all the challenges that they are facing, and all things that can be really done to shift money probably in a direction that is that we see as positive. As I said, I'm as well focusing a lot of the role of women in this context, because they, as we know, tend to be the increase of women investors is happening, and I'm really seeing that. And so I have now my own advisory firm in Zurich, helping them to allocate capital in alignment with their values.
Thank you. Thank you. Max.
Thank you very much indeed for having me here, Lubna. My pleasure. Well, I've been wearing a number of hats in my life. I'm a serial. Every time I'm saying serial, what comes next? And people just gasp, you know. Entrepreneur. For many years, I'd built businesses and exited them. But starting from almost 10 years back, I've only been focusing with my team and partners on one thing, putting up the global editions of CC Climate Change Investment Forum. And I have a very personal motivation behind that because I'm a happy father of twins. I was about to say two twins, but I realized twins can only be two. And I got increasingly embarrassed by the sort of questions that they were asking me back in the day. For example, we sometimes go to Davos, actually quite frequently, the whole family, and what we do was pontificate this, you know, at the World Economic Forum. And my family is normally doing some skiing, walking, and I remember distinctly there was a particular year, I think it was before COVID, when one of my twins said, "Daddy, why is it there not enough snow in the Alps? Why can't we do the skiing?" It was like 8 years old back, 9. And the other one, who is no less bright, asked me another question. How are we going to feed all the population in Africa if it already exceeds 1 billion? How are we going to, you know, we're going to get the food for all these people? So these sort of questions deeply concerned me, and they have been concerning me. I had been a sought after speaker at various conferences prior to that, but I had an eye-opening private encounter with someone who is now a prime minister of a country. I'll omit the name. And back then, 10 years back, he floated an idea to me. He said, "Max, if you were to set up a conference that would function more like a club, if you want, a community of impact investors, people who would be prepared to put their money where their mouth is when it comes to environmentalism or social impact. That's what the world needs." And I actually followed this piece of advice, and for 8 years we've just been doing this. We've been getting under one roof decision makers, institutional and private investors, VC capital firms, angels, sovereign funds, with one mission only: mobilizing private wealth for good causes, and also chaperoning, if I may take the liberty of using this term, educating them in some way and guiding them along the good lines. That's what we've been doing. We've done 12 global editions so far, and we're coming back to where we started from for our 13th global edition to London, the 19th to the 21st of March next year, so we have plenty of time to prepare. That's what we've been doing. So I have been right. I'm fortunate to have been right in the thick of the impact investing. I've been witnessing those trends and tendencies to form and shape, but not passively, but actively help them shape as well. That's what we've been doing, if that answers your question.
Thank you for the introduction. And yes, there's so many, it doesn't end, makes me have many more questions, but before I get too carried away, I would love to welcome Ian Duran to the stage.
Thank you, Lubna. Thank you so much to you and Catalyst for having us all and allowing me to be part of this extraordinary panel. My name is Ian Drew. I'm the CEO of Evoca Property. Essentially, we work with investors to place them into investments that align with their principles. and expectations. My background is that I was initially a corporate attorney and then an investment banker for over 35 years, having the great good fortune to have worked around the globe from Sydney to Frankfurt, London, Hong Kong, and New York. I guess, like many on the panel, initially the idea of having any kind of social bent or social concern with the projects in which we invested, and I guess those for whom we raised, was not really in evidence when we started, certainly when I started, but as we've seen, it's very much at the forefront now. I guess in terms of what I've seen, and my central tenet, this may not be popular with the private sector, but I've seen countries in which social infrastructure has worked, and I've seen countries where it clearly hasn't worked and there's been issues. And the common denominator, I think, with these successful jurisdictions has always been a great relationship and a very clear setup, clear delineation between the public and private sector. I think that once you have that established, it's remarkable when the two work together, how you're able to get things done. You know, it may not be news that people want to hear, but it really has been a kind of an axiom for what has worked and what hasn't. So I very much look forward to hearing what the panel has to say.
Thank you. Edward, perhaps you can, I would love for you to maybe weigh in on how might international legal and financial frameworks evolve to make regenerative investments safer and scalable so that we can get more of this happening.
Sure. So just going back to my experience when I started in the space, and this is I think in the 90s when the former Soviet Union fell apart. One of the ways that we were able to work with emerging markets that had issues in terms of investment going both in and out of the United States is finding ways to de-risk and hedge these investments on both sides. So an example of what was done initially, and this is something that we're using as a tool since we started with investments that were being made into the country by leveraging the partnership, if you will, between U.S. investors and the investors on the other side, where each one had something to lose. And the way we worked these types of projects is that we tended to favor investments where our partners on the other side had assets in the United States or in Europe, where the risk just basically got reduced as a result. So what tends to have happen in many parts of the world, especially in emerging markets, is rule of law is obviously not the same as what we have in the United States or Europe. So when we come into these markets and look for partners or investors, we want to see what assets they have outside of their country. And that tends to create a more even playing field. Now, certainly there are cases where you don't have that opportunity, where you have a great investment, but the investor tends to have all of their assets in country. And we have to get creative. So whether it's finding insurance products or having government involvement, and that's one of the other things that we do right off the bat when we enter a country, is not only do we work with the local government, but we make sure that the government where the money is coming from stands behind us. So as an example, our interest in Ukraine today is anchored by not just the relationships between the private sector, but also we make sure that both the local and federal government on the Ukrainian side understands what they have to lose if there's a risk that's associated with rule of law. And one way we create these bridges is we make sure that the U.S. Embassy in the local country we're doing business with, their economic section knows who we are, what we're doing, and why we're doing it. So if we're looking to make an impact in an emerging market in a country that needs our support and our finances, we want to make sure that this is something that is a win-win for both sides, because we certainly know that there's going to be risk in many of these countries, but risks are always mitigated by relationships, whether it's on the business side or the government side. So we work extraordinarily hard to build not just the business relationships, but make sure that the governments stand behind us and that we don't just rely on insurance products to offset the risk. So that's been our a process that we've worked with, whether it's in the former Soviet Union, in the Middle East, in Asia. And I think that's why the city of New York, under our current administration, has done so well, because we worked for the last 4 years to just build as strong of relationships as possible with governments from all over the world, especially governments that we didn't have prior dealings with. And those relationships are what attracts business. Those relationships are what builds the bridges between cities like New York and whether it's Abuja or any other city across the world. That these are not our typical partners, but if we do our job, we export the best of what we have here in New York City across the globe. And I think that's how we do really well financially, by doing good across the world.
Amazing. Speaking of risk, Max, I would love for, and if anybody else has would like to weigh in on this particular topic, especially on maybe Enzo.
Simon.
We're all very I mean, I swear to God, we can have like 10 hours instead of 1 hour. But and then I also Max.
No, Simon and Eddie like have some amazing things here. After Max talks, they have just they're
Yes,
titans.
I would love for all of you to respond. And Max, but I also want to just add to the point of risk is how do we redefine risk in a world where the greatest threats are social fragmentation and ecological collapse, not just market volatility?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Well, we're certainly living in a different paradigm from the one we were living even 10 or 20 years back. Absolutely clear. I mean, the traditional definition of risk is basically volatility of revenues and profits. That's how it's been defined in a classical way. But gone are the times when only this angle could be used. The risk is now, I would say, endemic in whatever investments are concerned and whatnot, because it's part of the it's not so much endemic, it's systemic, it's inside, and I'll probably define three angles here, three types of risks. One is as I'm saying, it's systemic, because the climate change, it's taking its toll. Inequality, its impact on the social aspects. This is made part of the whole paradigm. We can't sort of estrange ourselves from certainly from geopolitics here as well. But it's also there is a moral risk, particularly for companies, big corporations. You know, it's getting more and more, if I may suggest, shameful really to be associated with extraction in a time when regeneration should come to the fore. So what I'm just trying to say is it's no longer, a risk cannot be defined any longer in simple terms of volatility of profits or revenues, right? It's part of the system, it's part of the paradigm, and willy-nilly we have to take this into account. So if that makes sense to you, that's how I would define it really. And for forward-looking family offices, from now on, certainly we're living in a very chaotic times. It will be sort of a factor that they would have to factor in making all sorts of investments and investment decisions, big or small, corporate or more private. So it's no longer about volatility of figures, it's about the whole of the system.
Indeed. Simon, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah. I mean, risk and return is what investing is all about. So you know, it's if you're investing in venture capital, you expect 9 out of 10 of your investments to fail. You price that in to do returns. So you know, risk is normal. Everybody who invests has been addressing different risks. I think if you answer the question that Max raised earlier about how do you feed the people in Africa, that's about the investment that's needed to make there. They have the arable land, they have the market. So why?
And there is risk as well.
Yeah, so why isn't capital going in there to actually develop the agricultural industry?
Because you didn't bring us there.
Well, you're coming. I keep telling you, you're coming. So
We'll fly you all to CC Forum's 14th edition is in the Global South.
Yes, yeah, you invited
next
me.
year, October, November.
But I think
I just follow Simon around.
I think bringing in what Edward was commenting on, though, there is no shortage of capital. New York has more than enough money to fund every agricultural business in Africa to produce plenty of food for the Africans. The question is, how do you convince those investors sitting in New York or London or Paris or Switzerland or Beijing to actually put that money into these businesses in Africa to start producing food? And that's a question of how do you dice up that risk. So there are those that want to take extreme risk. There are those that are happy to put money in on a charitable basis. And there are those that want a very structured risk with insurance. Those are the skills that people in New York, people like Edward, some of the people on this panel have, of structuring the risks so that everybody takes the risks they want. And if you go back to the key theme of this, the transfer of wealth, I think what you're seeing is there are more people, particularly the next gen people who are inheriting a lot of this money, who are willing to take more risk and see smaller returns. So it's actually becoming much easier to structure it. You have those that want the high returns, you have those that want low risk, and then you have an increasing bit in the middle who are willing to take lower returns and more risk because they see it as being a good thing. So I don't see risk as being a bad thing. It's an evolving thing. People's perceptions of risk are changing. You're right that there are increasing climate risks, but all of this can be factored in. It's just a question of sitting down and saying who wants what risk and allocating that to them.
Absolutely. I think that is very, very correct. You know, every investment goes with a risk, but it's like the component of the risk can also be a bit outweighed with conviction. This is a bit what you are saying, that this the next generation or so on has a bit of a different approach as well to risk. And we have to see as well how to whom the investors are accountable to. A pension fund certainly has another accountability than a family office that is able to take a completely different risk profile. And this is why it is so interesting to see as well their role now getting stronger in all kinds of private market development financings.
I really
Just
wait.
wanted
Can I
to
just
add
say something as a family office next gen? I hate when people assume that we can take more risk because unlike pension funds and institutional investors, I have to look my investors in the eye for decades. So I'm extremely risk averse because it's about family honor and I have the burden of a 121-year legacy. And if I screw that up with a few investments, that's a very difficult thing to recover from. So I don't agree with us being more open to risk. What I would say is that someone who grew up decades younger than many of my advisors, we grew up in the era of social media, so we understand the collateral damage of investing in things that lead to bad PR. And one of the biggest mantras that we have in my family is number one, no bad PR. Number one, like if the deal is going to be mining lithium or putting tenants at risk of getting cancer because we put them too close to some sort of facility, we don't touch it. So you might see it and say, oh, we're open to this, we're making decisions on this. No, the first thing is we don't want bad PR, and then we look for cash preservation, which Edward, we turn to people like him for this, and then we look at getting return on investment. But there are different priorities. So yeah, anyways, I just had to put that out.
Yeah, and the response to that is everyone, as we just heard from Simon, everyone has a different risk tolerance. So once we understand where the risk tolerance is for the investor and the investment, things get much clearer. But the one thing that we do know, especially today, is that uncertainty breeds opportunity, and there's quite a bit of uncertainty. And one thing I've seen, especially in places like New York, when you have uncertainty, that's where all the money is made. So as I stated a little bit earlier in our conversation, especially if you're talking about real estate, which is probably one of the safest investments you can make around the globe after treasuries. Anytime there's a major downturn in a major market, especially like New York City, that's where you will see most investors come in that know the market well. And going back, I've been in the New York City real estate market since the late 80s. When we had the S&L crisis in late 80s, that's probably the largest amount of money that was made by families, family offices in the real estate sector. We replicated that once again after the internet bubble in the late 90s, and then again after 9/11, then again after the mortgage crisis in 2008-9, and so forth and so on. And every time we had a downturn, that was when the largest opportunity was. Now, we're not seeing those same opportunities today in the United States. They tend to be in the smaller markets, but that's where I think the emerging markets are playing a major role today. And the major role is that in places like, for example, Ukraine, where you have a war, that uncertainty creates a tremendous opportunity. Now, once you learn how to manage risk, then you're doing well. And I think Enzo has a question, so I'm going to hand it over to Enzo.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
On mute.
Thank you. Well, on this panel, as far as investing is concerned, I'm more a student than anything else. You certainly have more experience than me. So forgive my ignorance in this field. But I think also I see many other people on this call who are listening. It's also always a good learning opportunity. So I would like to ask if my understanding of impact investing vis-a-vis traditional investing is correct, because I heard a number of statements on this issue, which may not be always on the same line. So my understanding of traditional investment or institutional investment is that it has a certain ROI and relatively small or even zero purpose. So the objective of traditional investment is to generate the highest possible profit. Now, when we speak about impact investing, and that, gurus like Max and the others on this panel who really are leading the way. So my understanding of impact investing is that it equals to ROI plus purpose. And maybe that purpose would imply a smaller ROI compared to a traditional investment. So first of all, I would like to clarify with you if my understanding of what impact investing is correct. And if it is correct, then we should think about how to capitalize on this wealth transfer that we are debating today to offer a certain purpose and how to articulate that narrative so that traditional investors evolved into impact investors and are willing to earn a relatively lower ROI in exchange of contributing to a greater cause that in our case is the regeneration of Mother Earth. So I would like to understand if my vision or my approach to impact investing is correct. And if yes, how we build this new narrative that can persuade those who have the money to put that on the table to finance clean energy and new technologies for plastic removal from the oceans and extreme technologies to prevent natural disasters and so on. I leave that to you, to your expertise, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Enzo,
Very
I might,
happy to answer the first part of your question, Enzo. Absolutely, you're right. When it comes to impact investing, and we're seeing this at the forum all the time, consists of two parts. It has to be sustainable in every way. It has to be economically sustainable. Of course, the return on investment has to be there, but it's also plus the purpose. And the interesting tweak, the interesting bit that I can sort of pinpoint here, particularly seeing how the perception of impact investing has been, shaping, transforming itself over the last 8 or 10 years, because 10 years, some of them were completely in the dark as to what impact investing is all about. What we've been seeing over the recent years, and certainly I would say this, unfortunately, COVID times when we were all locked down and whatnot, was a bit of a catalyzer, excuse the tautology. It was catalytic in this respect because it really provided a bit of an eye-opener to many investors. And what I'm seeing now, this latter constituent, the purpose, the meaning, has been gaining more and more in importance. So much so, and that brings me to one of you answering the latter part of Enzo's question, that I'm seeing, and we are seeing, this deep transformation, this deeply transformative process within the next younger generation. The younger generation are more concerned with the impact they make, with the legacy they leave, rather than the short-term profits and revenues. So much so that some of them, because I'm speaking to them all the time on the fields before and during and after the forum, they openly say to me that we are prepared to run the risk of losing something out on short term for the sake of the longer term resilience and really supporting the life and communities. So it might sound, I'm not trying to draw a rosy picture, but that's what I've been hearing more and more, and I'm fortunately getting to know more and more people, particularly belonging to the Generation Z and even beyond, who will now be being handed over the reins by their families to lead the way, which brings me quite a lot of satisfaction and hope. Sorry, I've been too verbose.
No,
So something you have to keep in mind is that we're raised to view investments in a completely different light. So, and I didn't even realize this was not like a broadly taught thing until like probably within the past few years. But we look at the whole picture for investment opportunities at a 20 to 40 to multi-generational, like through that lens. We don't look at it as what are we going to get a return on over the next 2 years. If we want to do that, we're playing with crypto and the stock market, and I used to day trade crypto and all of that. But most of our investments that we're serious about, we're looking at what the 20 to 40 year return is on that. We also look at what strategic partnerships are we going to build through that are going to be multi-generational partnerships. Eddie and I were talking about this once, how in the family office world, you'll see a lot of arranged marriages still, even though that's not a common thing in the US. So we're always taught to not look at decisions as in like what's going to get our shareholders the best return this year. It's what's going to be the best for our legacy, for a multi-generational legacy. When we make decisions for real estate investments in my family, we say we've been in 120 years and we plan to be in another 220. This trophy was given to my grandfather when he was an international director at Rotary International.
Wow.
And it was given to him decades ago when he used his position as an international director to convince all the other nonprofits to work together to eradicate polio. That's the standard that we're held to in my family. Your grandfather got all the nonprofits to work together to eradicate polio. What are you doing with your free time, and what are you teaching your children to do? So we're held to an extremely high standard when it comes to the philanthropic work that we do. My father, he spent many years going back and forth from Haiti with multiple Rotary clubs. They would go to the orphanage, one of the orphanages down there, because they wanted to test if they could build something that would empower like build a specific type of economic structure, and then they were going to replicate it across all these other developing and emerging markets. So they went and they took this orphanage, they bought the land next to it, and they put a bunch of little huts in there, and then each hut was designed for an orphan to move to have to when they got older and they settled down, and they had crops and animals, and they were trying to teach them how to be different from the economic system, form a new type of social structure than what they had seen previously, where they all had to depend on each other and collaborate and swap crops and meat and milk and things like that. Go ahead, Edward.
No, I apologize, not looking to interrupt. I have to jump off, but just wanted to end on a quick note that impact investment of today is a typical investment of tomorrow. And just not too long ago, I'm a little bit older, so the green economy and climate change, these were not conversations. Now, it just we're going to back 10, 15 years ago. 17 years ago, these were not conversations. All of a sudden, the green economy is driving a large portion of the U.S. economy. So the amount, the tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars that are pouring into sectors that just short while ago were considered impact investment. These are no longer impact investments. So let's think a little bit broader and understand that what may look like a risk today or what we call an impact investment today can very, very quickly, especially due to social media, become something very, very different tomorrow.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that in terms of what Enzo was talking about being a trade-off between profits and some kind of social impact. Obviously, I can't speak to all asset classes around the world, but I can say that there doesn't have to be such a trade-off. And I look at property in the US as a good example. And this is a situation where I think the government has actually done something correctly, where there's any number of governmental incentives in the form of various securities, tax credits, bonds, you name it, whereby family offices, if they're interested in the asset class, are actually able to earn an enhanced return if the project is deemed to be doing good in an area that qualifies for that form of government assistance. And so it's very much, it's designed to be a double whammy in that respect. Now that doesn't apply to all asset classes around the world, but it certainly doesn't mean that it shouldn't be considered a given that if you are investing in something that's going to produce a desired impact socially, environmentally, or otherwise, that you are necessarily foregoing profits to do just that. There's a remarkable array of opportunities out there where you can quite not easily, but you can achieve both.
Yeah, especially when you take a bit of a longer time horizon, and don't measure only by short-term results.
Yeah, if I can just comment on it, I've been in the space since the 1980s. I think the biggest problem of attracting investors to this area is the fact that people are selling it as being you have to sacrifice return. So I am strongly against the idea of linking impact investment to lower returns. I think if it is lower returns, then it's a failed investment. The reality is that if you're investing in a solar farm, for example, that's an infrastructure deal. It's relatively low risk, so it's a relatively low return, same as a real estate type return. But it's low risk, therefore it's low return, like any other investment. If impact investing is not a good return, that's not going to attract capital, which has been half the problem. People are not investing in the sector because they see it as a low return sector, which is completely wrong. There are great technology investments and you can get technology type returns. And you and I spoke about this the other day. There are fantastic returns to be made in the sector, PE and VC type returns, but you're taking PE and VC type risk. And sometimes they win and most of the time they lose. There are incredibly low risk investments in this field. There's, solar panel farms, wind farms where you're getting all sorts of subsidies and subsidized debt. These are very low risk proven technology, and there's everything in between. So I would strongly go against the idea that we should be linking impact investing with low returns.
I'm just dying to know this. Has anybody taken the time to correct the formulas for
Simon? He does it all around the world. That's why all the young next gens follow him.
No, because
he has like a little cult of us. Just Simon, what can we invest in and sleep at night?
But I just think there's a price for inaction. And I don't know if we're taking that into account. It's similar, even, and maybe I'm using that when I think about security, for example, when companies go for security by obscurity, and they don't care to make the investment until it's a problem. But if you take into account the risk that you're taking to your brand or your exposure or what have you, then I'm not sure that the profit margins or the models stays sound. And so
you have to keep in mind, someone brought it up earlier. I don't remember who. Someone brought up how you have to look at who people are accountable to and who they care to impress. And that will help you to crack the nut on whether or not they're going to they're just focused on making returns, or they're focused on making returns and being ethical. I have a friend who worked on, she's in California, and she worked on there was a large corporation. Let's see, how can how can I say this without her getting sued? There was a large corporation that she worked with that had a natural, like, had a disaster happen that killed a lot of several types of species of animals. Is that high level enough? So she asked them. She said, "What is your goal? Is your goal to is your goal to clean this up so that we spin it as it's not your fault that all of these animals were killed?" And they were like, "We don't care how you spin it. We just want to go back to drilling within 5 years." Like, they zero qualms about the death toll of, like, I don't know, tens of thousands of animals in a specific region. But so you have to keep in mind, like, what do people care about? Now, if they're family office investors and you're saying, what you said there was 5.4 trillion. I was actually in a meeting, a closed door family office meeting a couple days ago, where they said it's closer to, it's a little bit past actually 17 trillion AUM for families. Yeah. So I don't know where you got your data from, but they had different data. So those people are making decisions based on the advice of people like Edward, Simon, Ian. That's why I pulled them into the call when you said this is the topic. You're a next gen. Who do you go to? And I was like, hey, these guys, they helped me figure out what's ethical and going to get a return. So my family's proud that I didn't have bad PR. I had good PR, and we made money off of it. But yeah, I think when we're having this conversation about capital coming into to places where we have a positive impact and we get a return, that's where you turn to people like Ian and Simon. But I would not hold institutional investors to the same standards as us. Like, we don't even like working with some of them. Like, unless I have a relative or a very trusted friend that's leading that, I'm not going to touch it. I told someone the other day, I was like, thank you so much, but we don't need your institutional money. We can take care of ourselves. You can't work with people who don't have the same moral compass as you. You can't.
Absolutely. And so I know you have your hand up. I don't know if it's because you have a question, you want to comment. I wish you would just like unmute.
Yes. Yeah. First of all, I have to apologize. In a few minutes, I will have to leave this. I would love to stay much longer.
No,
It's very interesting, very, very, as I said, learning opportunity for me to better understand and strategize our next moves. But Adi spoke about, Adi went even beyond purpose. She spoke about the legacy, which is a very powerful concept. And Simon, he said two very interesting things. He said that we have to focus on for profit in all we do. And I'm 100% in agreement. I don't believe in charity. So I think that the right approach. And secondly, and most importantly, Simon said that there are so many investments that add social impact to ROI. And from a strategic communication perspective, this is very important, because obviously if we go to an investor and we say, okay, instead of you making 10%, please make 7%, but you add purpose, most of them will think about it. So the point is that if it's true that we have we have a full roster of projects and technologies that are both profitable and impactful. So we don't have any problem, because obviously if we propose to any investor an investment that is both profitable and impactful, there is no reason why they should say no. So is this the situation? We are at this very pink, this pink scenario that we have all the data, knowledge, and a pipeline to raise all the money we need, or there is still something I don't get?
Alexandra, Simon, Ian.
Maybe Simon, maybe this is, please go on.
I do want, and with Ian having either invested or managed nearly $1 trillion, I can't wait to have him weigh in on that. But I wanted to, Alexandra, as a economist, advisor to many women investors, How do you see the shift happening?
No, I think you know, then the point is like to get the buy-in and the full understanding of the project of the whole situation, you know, where I often see that there is a bit of a lack where the investors are interested in these kind of project, but they have to take as well the time, you know, to fully understand it, and the investors have to prepare all the documents, all the
Educate.
accountability in a way that they can really, you know, go into these kind of maybe projects that are a bit, that deserve a bit more of a certain due diligence, you know. So I think like it is maybe more intense of time of due diligence to make the bridge there. And that is a point that from both sides needs to be addressed. It's a very practical issue as well in the end. The good intentions are there, the good projects are there. Now, how can we make, you know, the things happening?
Yeah, I would further add, Enzo, that a deal still has to be structured correctly. Otherwise, you know, a family office may have all the good intentions in the world and want to be associated with all the right investments and the right people, but if an investment is structured poorly, they're not going to invest. It's as simple as that. And so we, like many in our field, will see 200-300 you know, proposals before we find one that we like, that we think has the right set of risks and the right set of returns. And so that's an awful lot of transactions that, in our humble opinion, are not structured correctly. And so you know, I obviously can't speak for 17 trillion worth of family offices, but I'd be surprised if there are serious investors who will even countenance investing in something that's not structured in the way that they like. Otherwise, you're into the realm of charity. And so, you know, that doesn't equate to sustainability, nor, I would argue, reputational risk concerns either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Enzo, you said, you know, is the capital available? I think it's a question of where that capital is being allocated. You know, the Africa, for example, needs anywhere between $3 and $5 trillion a year to build the infrastructure. Now, a lot of that is relatively low risk in the sense it's power stations, it's housing, it's water. But going back to Ian's point, you've got to have the right documents and controls and reporting systems in place so that investors actually get their money back or can understand the risk. And that's what's been lacking to date, is there hasn't been that level of reporting that family offices, institutions, banks need. So that the important thing is not so much telling people they have to invest, but actually going back to these countries and saying, look, if you want investment, these are what you need to provide, which is no different from a startup company in the US or Europe. You know, they've got to produce business plans, projections, and documentation before they can get money as well. So it's documentation, it's risk, it's managing expectations. That's very different from, say, fusion technology or other forms of energy. Now, you know, in the Western context or even the Chinese context, anybody who comes up with a new way of generating energy cheaply and cleanly is going to make a fortune. There are people putting money into those sorts of technologies. They're doing it because they're going to make a lot of money.
Yeah, we have 18 million earmarked to buy a hardware and software company that are allowing us to have access to that capability.
That's it. And so that's not about charity. It's not about taking lower returns. It's about seeing an opportunity. And I think a lot of the impact investing, people need to see these as opportunities. These are, you know, the software, the tools, all of these technologies that can do things cheaper, whether it's cheaper food, cheaper energy, cheaper water, cheaper housing. These are going to make a lot of money for people. You don't have to sacrifice the returns, and you're doing good because you're doing things more efficiently or a lot cheaper.
Yeah, it's just about doing well, doing good, and shifting our mindsets from this extractive or this mindset.
Absolutely.
Just a mindset.
I was on a panel in April at a family office event in Palm Beach, and they were asking me. They said they were like, "What is something that people pitching you do, like medical technology? What is something that they get wrong when they come to family offices?" It's like the mindset. If they come in and they say, "Okay, in order for this to work, everyone's going to have to lose a little bit." Like, okay, they're focused on a loser's mindset. Like, this isn't going to work. They just told me that they don't know how to bring something to the finish line with a winner's mindset. If they come in and they say, this is how everyone that's sitting at this table is going to win, then they've just told me that they're one of those people that when they see an obstacle, because there are going to be hundreds of obstacles between the start and finish of any project, they're going to figure out how to climb over it and make it a win-win-win for everyone. Which is why we all follow Simon. No, I keep joking about this, but this summer there was like all these family offices flew in from around the world to hear Simon, Edward, Ian, a few other foreign ministers, the dean of one of the top business schools in the world, all spoke to a room full of next gens and old gens about how the different ways that we could actually use AI to calculate where we can invest in different countries to financially incentivize larger countries to protect the smaller countries from war. That is a crazy amount of data that is needed in order to calculate that. And we had one of the top data scientists in the world who has 60 patents to his name and now is running IE Business School's new technology school, fly in from Spain to explain all of that to us, work with Simon, Ian, Eddie, Minister Tashkevich to help us package this in a way that we understood that we can move forward with. But it's not something that's easy. It's something that takes people who are in their 60s and have been working longer than I've been alive to help us navigate those types of terrains and help us invest like that.
So, Ian, you're Simon, you're in the UK. Ian, you're in.
Simon lives on an airplane. He lives in first class.
No, but where because I need to get there, you know. I'm hoping that London with Simon.
I think something that we'll see over the next decade that will become more and more popular will be those who are serious about impact investing will go and work for the largest private equity funds first to cut their teeth, to understand the nuances of how to structure a deal to be a win for those who are going to be experiencing whatever that investment is at a local level and the investors as well. Because we have data at our fingertips. So we weren't taught that it has to be one or the other. We were taught that it has to be both.
I think you should start this training.
Absolutely.
I should start the training. Only if Simon, Eddie, and Ian agreed to start the school with me. Like we started a school training them. Follow Simon around Africa and Jamaica, please.
You know, and I see
go with Edward to Ukraine.
And I see it with the family offices, you know, when there is this like the documentation and everything is there and so on, you know, at the level of professionality that they are used to and that, you know, they are ready to invest, they will go, of course, they will test it with a smaller amount, you know, and they see what's happening. And then if things go well, they have a bit of partners established, okay, they go with more, you know, and it is not seldom that you then find like a family office that has, like from outside, over allocation in one of the sectors because they have made very good experiences and they have established their network, you know. So somebody who has like tried with one solar plant and things went well, they have their partners, they have seen the return they expected, like it was a smooth process, they are going for more, you know. So they tend to have then afterwards quite some allocations in one field that from outside you would say, well, maybe, you know, it's a bit on the heavy side, but they say we did well, we have our partners, we are feeling comfortable.
One of my godfathers, he has over 2,000 employees in 186 countries, and I think right now there are only 190 something countries. So that tells you how many countries he's across. He has 2 international banks included in his portfolio. But when he can get at a local level, when he can get the government to agree with him to support his desire to build a city, he's doing it. Right now, he's working on a $175 billion project with one of the governments to build an entire city overseas. So you do have these people who are thinking ethically. They are building the cities of the future. You do have it happening. It's just, I think we think there's a crisis because it's not widely broadcast. It's not being covered in the news as much as it could be.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have people who have this misconception that they should be getting institutions to partner with them. And I think the era of, what was it called, greenwashing and corporate social responsibility, that's kind of, we're no longer in an era where that's like the way to go, right?
Yeah, and I think, Adi, that's a great point. I think that institutions are really grappling with the whole concept of reputational risk and what impact investing means, and where they should be headed. And when you try and change the direction of an absolute monolith, it's just incredibly difficult. And I see this as an area where family offices really have an advantage over the institutions, because now that you are dealing with the sort of aggregate numbers that we talked about before, you have an incredible degree of power, influence, and leverage. And I see the family offices as being nimble enough to be able to quickly adapt, because at the risk of stating the obvious, the world is changing so rapidly. I don't know that the institutions are able to change as quickly as they need to in response to that, whereas family offices can. And so I see that as a huge advantage. Edward touched upon it earlier, the fact that when there is confusion and mistrust and difficulty within markets, it's an opportunity for some. And I think that, family offices are in an amazing position to capitalize on what we're seeing at the moment, simply because the institutions, unfortunately for them, take an enormous amount of time to respond to that.
Yeah,
there's something that Ian and I are actually working on.
Exactly. So I have to apologize as well. I have to run, unfortunately. Thanks a lot
Thank you so
for the
much.
discussion, and yeah, hope for a follow-up.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
Bye-bye.
I will
Likewise,
absolutely
Alexandra.
delighted.
There's Ian and I had a rare opportunity with a conversation with a family office a couple weeks ago now, where they called and they said, Adi, if we like data centers, we don't want the bad PR of investing in data centers that are causing people to not have drinkable water. So if you hear of any opportunities where the data centers are not, like, they don't have the water requirement, we want to know about them. And that's when I found out, okay, it would cost us 18 million to buy this hardware company and the software company that negate the need for water for data centers. And they were like, great, we'll throw $10 billion at that. But that's a family office. Like, I don't think people understand how quickly they can move money they want to make money with the data centers. They don't want the bad PR of this family office funded all these data centers that deprived all of these states of water for the local population. But
the next time we get together, I'm going to have to bring some people that I'm sure I have in the audience now on stage, because there's a few fantastic solutions that are out there, including a data center cooling that the water is a closed loop, so no contamination, and the heat is repurposed for the building in other forms, so to generate energy. But there are so many that are cleaning algae that's overgrown, harvesting it and turning it into there are so many amazing. But we are kind of running out of time. As much I know that I'm barely getting this going. I think this like conversation is getting really cool now. I wish we could have another hour, but maybe we can get a few more sessions together. And I am hopeful that we will reconvene in a collaboration that continues the work, and that we can mobilize some of the activities and some of the discussion that we had today. I'm not one for a lot of blah blah, as much as I really want to mobilize and action the blah blah, because and I'm really tired of all these big events that are very exclusive, so we can talk about inclusivity and we create a lot of footprints so we can talk about climate. But before I close, I just wanted to see if you can if there is one shift in the mindset, whether it's metric or a method to unlock the next era of human-centric capitalism.
What is it?
It's the one shift. If there is one shift, whether it's mindset or metric or what, I mean, I think we should shift where we place emphasis and how we measure value. I think we are very busy sometimes with the wrapper rather than the sweet candy inside.
I think one thing you have to keep in mind, and this will change your life once you do it, is there are people who are corrupt and broken because they have different North Star metrics that they measure themselves by and they hold themselves accountable to. And they have different horrible experiences that they faced when they were young. And it's not our job to be the therapist of those people and to fix everyone. It is our job to find the best people who are wanting to collaborate with us in the ways that we value now and to just go and work with those people. Like, people look at all the things they've achieved and they were like, what's one, I had one young guy come to me yesterday. He's like, what's one piece of advice you would give me? Because like of everything you've achieved, most people achieve one of these things in their lifetime. You did all of them before the age of 40. I said, surround yourself with people who want you to win, who want to reach the same goal as you, who want to mentor you, and you have to give them a slice of the pie. Like, people get jealous that I have the best mentors. And I was like, you understand that I always find someone smarter than me. And then I say, hey, I'll give you 50% of everything because I don't know what I'm doing and you do. And Ian is one of those people right now. We're working on all these things together. And I was like, hey, you're way smarter than me. I know I have so much to learn from you over the course of decades. Could I just give you half of whatever is made from everything here? Like, that's, you have to have this collaboration mindset and this apprenticeship mindset. There's a book, it's one of Robert Greene's books. He said, far too few people spend time being an apprentice. And I spend all of my time being an apprentice. I'm constantly looking for people who are going to help me level up, who are way smarter than me. I don't know if you saw how many times Edward liked to dig this into the conversation. Well, I'm decades older than some of you here, and he was talking to me every time, and I know because he says that in conversation all the time. He's like, well, Adi, decades ago, things happened this way.
I mean, if he even said the word impact, it was a showstopper right there. But thank you so much, Eddie. You are just a beautiful thing, I swear to God. Simon, Ian, any last words?
Yeah, I'm extremely positive about the outlook for the future because I think the way that technology is developing, a lot of the issues that we've had in the past can be solved and will be solved going forward. So I think that the solutions are there. There will be even better solutions going forward. The question is, how do we deploy those? How do we get them funded? And how quickly can we do that? But I think there is a lot of negativity, a lot of people focusing on the bad stuff and not focusing on the incredible achievements that we're doing. I mean, we are coming up with solutions to energy. We're coming up with ways of dealing with the carbon. We're coming up with ways of growing food, cleaning water. All of these will start getting deployed over the next few years. And then we'll all be sitting back in sort of 20 years' time going, wow, what we were worried about. Similar to the sort of the millennium bug where it all hit sort of 1st of January 2000 and we went, okay, it wasn't that big an issue. And I think that's because a lot of work went in and a lot of that work is now being done so that we will solve these issues. And it's a question of looking on the positive side, as Adi said, you don't want to turn up with a negative mindset, in which case everything will look bad. I think if we look with a positive mindset and we see the positive solutions and we start funding them, we can all do a lot of good and make a lot of money.
Absolutely. Life is as a matter of perception and response anyway. Your reality is a matter of perception and response. And Ian?
Look, I would just say, firstly, I'd love to thank you, Lubna, and Catalyst for having us all. It's been a wonderful panel. My thought is capital is king. That hasn't changed. When I first started this 30 years ago, capital came in the form of banks and certain funds, and they controlled and they wrote the rules. Sources of capital, as we've discussed, are changing. Family offices have really come into the fray, and if you are a family office, you are now rewriting the rules, and you exert the power accordingly. And it's a really exciting time, really exciting time.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I really, really thank you all, and I'm so grateful. I think if I were to recap what I heard today, and I think maybe you have all heard the same, I hope that capital isn't only a resource, it is a relationship, and it's really between the past, the future, local and global, and it's the self and the collective. And when capital is aligned with collaboration and rooted in dignity, it grows life, not just portfolios. So I want to just end with a couple of simple questions. So what are we growing, and who are we growing it for? And I genuinely believe that the trillions of dollars that we're talking about here, when it's for impact, it's actually not about charity. I too don't like the word charity. I think in 2005, I came up with a word called charity because we're all getting something for it. But it is about rewriting the operating system of value. The future of wealth, I believe, is shared wealth, and the future of return is human flourishing. I can't tell you how grateful I am to have you. This is a story of transformation, and we are writing it together. I thank you for joining me on this journey. This is only the beginning. I hope you will all come back, and I look forward to a debrief and to a follow-up, and we will be hopefully doing a lot of more of this, but in action. And to Simon, to last thing I'll say to your question, not to give a plug to what I do, but the alternate living labs are exactly about that, about mobilizing resources and about shifting the systemic waste, redirecting systemic waste to fuel the transition. We'll talk about that in the next time we get around at the table together. I thank you so very much. Thank you for staying even 2 minutes past the 90 minutes. I'm so grateful. Your time is worth so much to me. This has been fantastic for me. I'm so grateful. I hope it was good for you. To everyone, thank you very, very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thanks.